Thank you, Mr. Chairman. General, thank you very much for being here, and thank you for your outstanding service to our country. General Mattis, I wanted to get your views on the development of the air-sea battle concept. As you know, the new QDR directs the Navy and the Air Force to develop a joint air-sea battle concept for defeating adversaries with sophisticated anti-access and area denial capabilities, which in turn will help guide the development of future capabilities needed for effective power projection operations. And my question is, could you provide your views on the development of this new air-sea battle concept so far, and where does Joint Forces Command fit into the development, evaluation, and implementation of this concept?
Yes, Senator, thank you. The air-sea battle concept grew out of identification of a military problem. And that problem is, how do we work together jointly in order to maintain control of one of the commons, the sea lanes? The situation is changing. It's always changing security-wise, and adapting to that problem has brought these two services together. Joint Forces Command is part of this effort. We're monitoring it right now, but we're monitoring it to make sure that what we've done in past experiments and concept development guides this forward, and also that we harvest from them the lessons that they're learning as they come to grips with this problem broken down into bite-sized pieces. What we're seeing is more and more this integration at every level of war. At one time, we basically integrated at the strategic level, and that was good. Then we got into the operational level of integration. You saw that in Desert Storm and certainly in OIF-1. And we're now integrating down at the tactical level. No longer can any service go into even one of its primary domains, the Army on the land, the Navy at sea, the Air Force in the air, and not integrate with others. It's the nature of warfare today. It's the nature of a lot of things today. You've got to integrate more than ever in this age. So it's going forward well. I think the identification of the problems is maturing well. I would say we're in very good shape on that. The solutions are not completely clarified yet, and we will also uncover additional problems as we go forward. Ultimately, we will see an increased reliance on naval forces as we look toward the future security situation. It must be that way for matters of limited access in certain areas for political or military reasons, and to bring the Air Force and the Navy together, I think, is a very healthy thing at this point, even though we have not completely got all the problems outlined. But we're getting there.
In your opinion, how will long-range strike capabilities fit into this new air-sea battle concept?
Sir, we look at these somewhat in phases, these kinds of issues. Certainly during phase 0, when we're engaging along the lines of what AFRICOM has been testifying to here today, what we're doing is we're trying to deter enemies, potential adversaries, from ever doing something that we don't want them to do. That would be disadvantageous to international stability. When you put together a strong capability like this, you temper our potential adversaries' designs. Should it go into a combat phase, the planning for this comes under something called campaign design. And in that area, the strike capability that would be built would be fundamental to ensuring that we deter our enemies and reassure our friends that we can get through to them and support them.
Do you see foresee any in future budget requests changes based on this new concept? For example, equipment, requests with regard to this new concept.
Sir, I'd like to take a pause on that one, because I think first we need to get the concept right before we come to you asking for money. Certainly, the capabilities, strike capabilities, will have to be maintained at the cutting edge. But I can't tell you, I can't really forecast until we get the concept right, which is based on a very clear problem statement of what we're trying to solve, whether or not that will mean new programs.
Okay. Admiral, advanced weapons systems designed for anti-access and area denial are being proliferated throughout the world, including in the European Command Area of Responsibility. Russia's developing advanced surface-to-air missile systems, advanced fifth-generation type fighter aircraft, and even hinting at plans to develop a new long-range bomber. while the likelihood of conflict with Russia is low, it seems more likely that we will be involved in a future conflict against adversaries who possess advanced anti-aircraft and area denial weapon systems sold to them by the Russians. What are your views on these activities by the Russians to develop and proliferate anti-access and area denial systems?
Senator, we continuously evaluate globally all of the threat systems that are emerging, and indeed Russia is developing some very sophisticated ones that you mentioned, along with some, I would add, some subsurface submarine kinds of capabilities. So clearly we have to pace that. Clearly we have to maintain our superiority at all levels as we go forward, and I think that applies not solely to Russian, but really looking globally at all the threats. That's a fundamental responsibility of the department.
Do you view Russia's development of a fifth-generation fighter aircraft as a cause for concern?
I'm sorry, sir?
Well, I was just going to ask you, do you view Russia's development of a fifth-generation fighter aircraft as a cause for concern?
I do.
And how about their planned development of a new long-range bomber? Is that something that...
Yes. I would put that, again, in the category of a wide variety of emerging global threats, but those would be among them.
Okay. I want to, and I've got one other question I want to ask. The Russians are seeking to link missile defense to follow-on START treaty, and that negotiations, as we understand, have stalled over the Russian demand for the option to withdraw from the treaty unilaterally if they determine that our missile defenses would threaten its nuclear missile force. To the best of your knowledge, is there any effort afoot to negotiate a side agreement with the Russians on this issue?
Sir, I have no idea. That would be squarely in the purview of the Department of State.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you all very much.